See in the background? Let me see. Okay, good. Everything is connected. Everything is good. Well, welcome to the Black Podcast. We're so excited to have you here. We have a special guest. But before we get to our special guest, I just want to let you know that every Thursday we'll be here at 4 o'clock Central Time. So make sure you are sharing the post, sharing the live videos, and during the episodes, if you have any questions for our guests, please make sure you log in. Let us know what your questions are, and we will make sure that the guests here so they can um, talk to you and answer all your questions. But I'm Dr. Sherelle Hobson. I'm your student athlete resilience coach and your athletic program enthusiast. I've been an educator for over 15 years. I've had the pleasure of developing professional developments for our coaches in K through 12, helping them to increase their 90% matriculation in high school athletics. I'm also the founder of C12, which focuses on empowering underserved youth through excellence of academics, athletics, and mentoring to create a lifelong success. But as a speaker and an author, as many of you know, I've had the honor to develop 2 books that have provided people with tools on acknowledging where they're at currently in their space and how to get back on track when life hits. But with a doctorate in sports administration and leadership, I had the privilege of focusing on the effects of athletics on their educational plans of our young African American men. I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about our community, and I want to make sure that I am productive in our community and making an impact to many men and women.
That's what's up. And that's why I decided to partner up with her because of all that greatness that you guys just heard. My name is Brian Street, and I'm the founder and CEO of Your Legacy Begins Now. I saw deficits in some of the systems that our country has developed back in 2014, and I saw certain people in administrative roles that weren't doing what was necessary to fill those gaps. They were allowing certain populations of teenagers to age out into adulthood and not have the proper training to become that successful adult. And I wanted to make a difference in that space. So I developed my own company, which I run as a social business, to where I have various different streams of revenue from cognitive behavioral coaching, from entrepreneurial training, things along those lines that help generate certain streams of revenue. And a portion of that revenue is designated to go towards developing mentoring and leadership programs for that transitional age adolescent so they can get to that next level in life and actually be doing something that they desire to do and contributing to society. That's me in a nutshell, but this ain't about us today.
No, it's not about us. But let me tell you, I don't know if everybody's ready for our special guest, and I mean he is truly special. He is I don't know. I'm lost for words. We got Mr. Yancey Berry in the house, and I'm just so excited to have him. B, just give him a little insight on who we have today.
Well, this is one of those gentlemen that you can sit here and you can discuss their greatness for days. You can list off all of their accomplishments. You can list off the people who they've worked with, the things that they've been able to contribute to the world, the people's lives that they've been able to change. When I ran upon this gentleman, I looked at his content and I saw who he's worked with. I saw the confidence and peace and power that he brought to what he does. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to hear from this.
I want to hear more immediately.
Yes. What I'm going to do, I'm going to close my mouth for a bit. And I'm going to hand off the mic. So if you don't mind, Mr. Yancey Berry, just give us a little bit of your background. Who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get to where you are? And where do you see yourself going?
Wow. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. You guys are talking. I'm like, who are they talking about? I can't wait to meet this dude. My name's Yancey Berry. For those who don't know, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a life coach. And what does that mean? There's so many life coaches in this planet, right? There's so many people who really, really want to help people. I've been fortunate enough to really be in the trenches with some really important people. We're all important, but some people who really needed to be bigger in this world, to see their vision come to fruition. And I've been so fortunate to work hand in hand with some people like that. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, but fortunately, now that we can do this, I'm international. I work in London and now beginning to work in South Africa. I work all over the United States. And I help people work out, and I help them develop spiritual and emotional plans to be their best self so they can be the CEOs that they need to be. They can be the writers, the actors, the entrepreneurs, the helpers, everything that they need to be, the moms, the dads in this world, so that they can each one teach one and help each other be better. I grew up not in the world of fitness at all. I actually grew up in a world of addiction. I started
Mm.
getting high at the age of 12, started drinking extremely heavily at the age of 18, and really needed to get sober right away at about the age of 20 to 21, is which a suicidal spiral began for me that I was able to fortunately survive through until I was able to get clean and sober at the age of 26. So I've been clean and sober for 21 years. My specialty, my focus in life coaching is addiction recovery. So people who need to get clean and sober, or they have problems with alcohol or sex, love addiction, things of that nature, I'm able to help. But I'm able to work with really anyone who's able to create a vision, because I'm all about action and helping them get into massive action, which creates massive feedback, which then in turn we act on from there. So, it's been a long journey, and I'm happy to be where I am today. And in the future, it's just going to be bigger, better. I have so many things in play. I can't even believe how much stuff is how many balls are being juggled right now, because this next year or two are really going to be massive, and I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely. We're just excited to have you here. A lot of times people look at, they see the smiling faces and they see,
Hmm.
oh, wow, look at him. I wish I was there. I wish that was my life. And we get caught up a lot of times when we're looking at social media. And sometimes as someone, a person of influence, when you make those posts, you're making, you really take a lot of, really takes a lot of energy, because you go into it with a purpose. You want to reach somebody. You want to, hey, something was heavy on my heart, let me touch somebody's life. But something to you that seems like this is what I'm supposed to do because it's attached to my purpose, to other people's like, oh my God, I wish my life was like that. So just the
Yeah.
fact that you are open to sharing your story. I know in our culture we talk about all the time, a lot of times we can't grow because we don't want to be vulnerable. And so, and that's just a lot of our history. We learn to internalize a lot of things, because we don't want people to know our business, or we don't want to, black men don't want to look weak, or black women don't want to look like what they say, quote unquote, crazy. And so we internalize. So how did you get to that place where you said, you know what it is, this is
Yeah.
this is it, and be able to move forward? How did you get to that point?
Well, I think for me, I was lucky. I really consider myself the champion of the failure, because I'm all about people who've really stumbled. I'm not about like, hey, I'm perfect. I want to project this perfect thing into the world, and how can you be like me? No, man, I'm the kind of person the only reason I'm successful is because I've failed so much but gotten up. I've been fortunate enough to live. I was blessed, but I also needed a lot of help early. I think when people have a certain amount of success early in their life, they're really able to try to take that and run with it. For me, I was failing so early, I needed so much help early on that I learned something really important. If you're able to walk and work with someone else who can help teach you, you can really go a lot further working with another person or another group. I got clean and sober early on, and a lot of my life was going to AA meetings, so it wasn't really about me and my ego. It was about, hey, how do you get sober? How do you take the very first step, and how you take the step after that? And then once you're sober for a little bit, how do you help those people, quote unquote, behind you, the other persons who's a week sober and they need to do something next, or the next person who's 6 months sober and they need to do something next. For me, it's always been about each one teach one, because I was fortunate enough to fail early. If I would have had success early on, it might have been a different animal. I might be trying to project that onto the world. But because I failed so much early, I'm the champion of the person who falls down. You're just like everybody else who falls down. Help them stand up, do the next thing, and then help somebody else. Butterfly effect. You do one small thing, and you never know how it's going to affect somebody's family, affect the future. It can be very, very massive. Each one teach one. It's a very small thing, but it can go a long way.
Man, I really, I'm looking at, so I'm taking notes. Being an academic, you take notes all the time. So I'm taking notes on the things that you're sharing with us, and I go all the way back to 12 years old, getting high. Now, I got little guys who, where I grew up from, the same thing. But I was that kid that had the parents, some of them call them helicopter parents, but they were like, Brian, after this football game, you go get something to eat and you come right home. So I didn't really have the opportunity to get caught up as much as a lot of my peers did. But I look
Hmm.
back, and it's kind of what brought me to where I am now in the work that I do now. Whereas my favorite population to work with is the kids in the juvenile detention center, because I used to see that. I saw how the system was failing them, and I'm like, you know what? If not me, then who? So I look at that at age 12, age 13, or 18, being drunk, age 21, suicidal ideation, and then doing what you needed to do between then and 26 to become sober. And one thing that I want you to, I mean, we can kind of elaborate on it and reference to other areas in life moving forward. But what I want you to really give to our audience is, like, you had to have a group for help. You couldn't do it by yourself. And one thing that Dr. Sherelle Hobson was mentioning, as men, sometimes we have that ego. I could do it by
Hmm.
myself. What do I need to do? And I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
But no, like, you have to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm struggling with this. Like, I ain't been in this position before. And that's what makes you so powerful, because you've been there. So you can help these individuals moving forward. And it's one thing that I feel so much of your story can help our community, specifically the Black community, is the whole crab in the bucket mentality. Like, when I
Hmm.
get up here, hey, y'all figure it out yourselves. Like, I
Right.
made, but you reach down and you pull the next one up.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hit on those things, because those are so important for us to know where we came from, to understand what gifts we have to be able to give to those who actually are still in that same position.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian. One thing that I had mentioned about being an Alcoholics Anonymous, one big part of that is you actually have to give the gift away to keep it. So, in a very selfish sense, if you want to stay sober, you actually have to find somebody to help, because so much of life is falling off the wagon, and then God knows what happens after that. A big part of Alcoholics Anonymous is actually helping somebody once you get sober. So I've been able to learn that. Hey, turn and help somebody else. Number two, things like therapy and AA sponsorship and all these things, they were necessary for me. They're not the only way. Guess what? You can do it on your own. Go wild. If you can do it on your own, go ahead. Now, if you really want to go super far, do it with somebody else. You
Exactly.
know, there's a it's something that I've always believed in. One of the most important books I ever read was called Think and Grow Rich by a man named Napoleon Hill. It was the one of the very first personal development books, and he's all about the theory that 1 + 1 = 3. When two people work together, there's this spiritual mind, like a third partner that comes in to help. So yeah, one can do it. Yeah, I can do it on my own. But 1 + 1 = 3, because it's me, it's you, and the spiritual guider that comes in to help us go even further. So go for it. You do it that way. I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna cheer you on. I'm gonna do it this way, and whatever people need to gravitate toward, get it. If one on one, if doing it on your own isn't working, try it with somebody who you trust. And if that person doesn't work, try it with somebody else. You just need to find the right people to collaborate with. You two are collaborating right now. You two
Mhm.
are collaborating for a reason. 1 + 1 = 3 with you. That's how I work. 1 + 1 = 3. Sometimes I work in groups. I host a book club on Wednesday nights. I've hosted for years. Anyone on this podcast who wants to join us can come join us on a Wednesday night, 7:30 Los Angeles time. We work in groups. There's 15 of us. 15 of us is really like 25, because we walk in a pack, and we go and we're winners. It's one way to do it. It's such a beautiful way to get help from another human being. And guess what? If they're not the right person, move on right away and find somebody else. And then on top of that, you go help somebody too. You know,
Absolutely.
you're a champion just like the person who's helping you. Everyone in here is a champion or has a champion in them. Get help and then go help somebody else, just like you were saying, Brian.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am when you talk about that, I always tell people, life is about, serving. You know, your life is not about you. And sometimes I remember when my brother passed away, and I was having this conversation, I was praying, I was crying, and I said, you know, why? Like, why, God, are you putting me through this or that? And he said, why not you? You know, like, what makes you so special that you think that you don't have to be the one to go through something? And if it wasn't for, you know, my brother passing and the things, you know, the love of my life disappearing off the face of the earth and all these things happening in my life, it wasn't for those things, there would be no Black podcast, there would be no themes of gold, there would be no unleashing your full potential, there would be no doctorates, there would be none of those things. And so I always tell people, like, you know, your life is not about you, you know, your life is about, you know, like you said, paying forward. And but we get so stuck a lot of times in our own, you know, our own whatever we got. And I remember today, I was looking at something, and then I was sitting there and I was meditating and I was praying, and instantly I got this uh like this spirit told me to take me higher than my thoughts. And I thought, what is that? You know what I'm saying? What are you like? What are you saying? And it was like, your thinking needs to be higher. You know, like the things that you're thinking, like think higher than that. And I just thought, you know, for me, it was almost like, man, am I thinking? You know, are my thoughts I'm having really small? You know, because it was just so very confusing. And I thought I need to tell somebody this, but then it's like when you're trying to make sense of it, it don't make sense, but it makes sense. But it was like, just, you know, your thoughts have to be higher. Think higher than your thoughts. You know, and I
I
was just
love that.
like, it was a lot for me. But when you talk about your story and you talk about making those connections, and a lot of times your recovery came from not only your own willpower, but the fact that you are paying forward and now people are counting on you. So it's like
Hmm.
you gotta make it, because
Yeah.
there's other people that are like, hey, if you don't make it, man, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
make it. And so that
Yeah.
extra, you know, that responsibility of somebody else, it goes a long way. So when you
Yeah.
talk about sharing and sharing your story, you know, some people may not be able to relate. I always thought that I didn't have a story because it wasn't traumatic enough, you
Yeah.
know. And how did you feel? How did you go forward as saying my story is relevant? What I have to do is relevant, and you need to hear me or you need to have me because I can change your life. How did you get to that place where people said, you know, okay, you know,
Yeah.
I'll be really vulnerable to you because it's not easy. How did you get to that
Right.
place?
Right. Well, there is some value in being on the planet for a while, I mean, I'm 47, and if I was a 25-year-old life coach, it might be more difficult for me. you know, Being 47 and being through, and thank you so much for sharing about your brother, Sherelle. I've lost two of my brothers now, and it's so painful. But guess what? The next time somebody comes to me with the loss of a child or a brother or a husband or a wife, I can empathize because I've been there. Part of the value of being 47 is I've been on the planet for a while. You can be a life coach at 25, but it's a lot easier being 47 and having succeeded and failed and succeeded and failed and succeeded and failed, because you have all these experiences with which to give someone. So I think a big part of it came from a lot of success in the personal training field. I've been in that field for over 10 years, and in my company, the company that I came from, Equinox, I did everything that I could possibly do, and everybody got to see it. So I was in one of the most prominent gyms in the company, and everybody got to see me succeed all over the place. So then there's CEOs and actors and all these other people who are like, "Oh, that's the guy," and then that's how I connected with Common, and that's how I did. I was able to work with all these other people. So I had the experience that they were looking at and like, okay, I want to be able to share my life with this person. And then it became a lot more about less about working out and a lot more about other stuff. And then after I did a million personal training sessions, it's like, okay, what are you going to do next, Chance? I mean, how many push-ups and sit-ups are you going to do? How many bodyweight squats are you going to do? What's next? And after about, 6 years of, working 50 to 60 hours a week as a personal trainer, I was like, God, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? Where can I fulfill my highest good? And I had three life coaches, excuse me, in my time because I saw the value of working with others, right? So as I became more and more successful, it was like, hey, I want this life coach, this life coach, this life coach. And I was like, the last couple, I was like, I'm actually better than them. I'm like, I'm better at coaching life than that person who's getting paid to do it right now. And they're getting paid a lot. So, the signal came, the bat signal came. God said, I want you to do that. And then I started doing it. And then I found out there's 5 million life coaches. Fortunately, there's only a handful of them that are really good. So if you do a good job, you'll get to the top fairly quickly. So I was like, boom, I'm on it. And then it was like, okay, what do I do now? I did that for a while. Okay, build a company. Boom, I have business partners now. I have an administrative assistant. I have these things so that I can move forward in a bigger, bolder way. Okay, you want to specialize in something. Okay, I specialize in addiction recovery. I'm clean and sober 21 years. So guess what? That CEO whose company is going to fall apart if they don't get it together right now is going to reach out to me because they know that I've walked the walk for 21 years. So some of the answer to your question is I've lived long enough and been able to make it. I've been able to make it through some of these difficult times, and people see that. People feel that. People are like, okay, you've been through the trenches, and I know that if anything, you can help me by listening to me. Because the difference between me as a coach, Sherelle, I'm not telling anybody what to do. A lot of the time, the people I coach are way more successful than me. I mean, I coach people who have millions and millions of dollars in the bank, but they know I'm a really good sounding board and I can help bring out the best of themselves and help them make their very best decisions. And that's the difference between me and maybe someone who's trying to tell somebody what to do.
Man, I'm so glad that you mentioned you hit on so much of that because I hold 3 degrees, working on a fourth one, and so many people they see that and they're like putting me on this pedestal, like, oh, he's the greatest, this, greatest, that. My greatness is in my struggle. You don't know. You haven't heard my story of when I got kicked out of college. I'm a college flunky. I was kicked out of college. The same guy that started his own company, that partnered up with a couple other individuals, started a company, started a nonprofit organization, developed multiple mentoring programs. A lot of times people don't realize that what seems at the current time to be a curse is really a blessing in disguise. And you mentioned earlier about it being the gift that you give away. And and it's one of the things I quite often mention on my trainings is I feel that all of us is placed here on this planet with a gift. And our purpose is to discover what that gift is, wrap
Mm.
it up with our passion, and give it away to the world. So the struggles that you go through, the fact that I actually was kicked out of school. I went from finishing high school with a 3.89, being one of the top in the class, to getting kicked out of college 2 years later, to going back later, winning multiple, all these different accolades. So it's like you have to fall down to be able to get up and show someone else the way that they can get up. So
Yeah,
that
you got it, Brian.
that vulnerability is just so key.
Yeah, you nailed it, Brian. I was reading a book on a book on Judaism. I've studied all these different forms of spirituality. I grew up in a Southern Baptist household, and so much of my life was falling apart that I started reading about all these other ways to connect with God. And I was reading this book on Judaism, and it was really important to me because it said somebody who falls down and gets up is so much more powerful than a person who just walks in a straight path the entire time. Sin or quote unquote failure, it's not a good thing per se, but somebody who falls down and gets up is so much more powerful than a person who just did it well their entire life. Like I think of people who are so successful and they've been successful since they were kids. And I think of people who've been failures their entire life since they were kids. There are very few people who were failures who are now successes. It's a pretty rare animal. And I identify with that animal. So it's like, that's the person who I really want to help. The person who's the failure, because I think that I can help somebody go from failure to success or find those tools within themselves. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm helping you be your best self and come up with your own answers. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you talk about, taking those experiences from your life and allowing them to develop who you are, when I decided to write my book, it's called Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty and Brokenness. For me, it was, everywhere I went, people were saying, oh my God, at the time I think I was, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 30 or something like that, or 30 something. And people kept saying, oh my God, and you're so pretty and you're so this and you're so that and you got this and you got that. And it was like I get home and I was crying, or, I was in a place like I would physically be somewhere and really not be there. I can tell you that I went to New Mexico State on a track scholarship, and my teammates, they were like, "Oh, Sherelle, do you remember that time that we walked to Whataburger and we did?" Can I tell you that in 4 years, I remember nothing. And it was scary to me that I have, like, I was physical, and I see these pictures of me in Whataburger, or all these different places with all these people, and I remember nothing. And it was
Yeah.
so scary to know that you haven't been present your whole life. You literally have just been just living, just there, you know. And so my biggest challenge when I wrote the book was, what does beauty really mean?
Mm.
And I look and I'm like, do these people really feel beautiful? Because I know I don't feel it, and people keep telling
Right.
me. And so when I came up with the title, it was based off of a Japanese method of kintsugi. And what they do is they take pottery and they break it, and they take the broken pieces and they seam it with gold to create a masterpiece, and then people
Wow.
go and they buy it because now it has more value. And I thought that's how we are as people. When we can learn to fill
Mm.
ourselves with gold. And when I think of gold, I think of grace, I think of forgiveness, having that self-forgiveness for ourselves, because a lot of times a lot of pain that I created was what I created myself. I had a mom and dad who were encouraging. My parents been married for over 40 years. I mean, if you looked at my life, you thought she's accomplished a lot of things. She's doing very well. But my pain came from me. And so when you talk about, moving forward and being able to continue to speak that life into people, what do you do to feel yourself? Because like you said, if you don't replenish yourself, you have nothing to give people. So what do you do for you?
Yeah, well, great question, Sherelle, and thanks for so much for your. It's so great because I'm learning so much about both of you, who I already just knowing you admire so much. Thanks so much for sharing that bit of your story about the pottery, and what a beautiful, beautiful thing, by the way. I might use that for my next seminar. I like that. I like that, Sherelle. But you mentioned it. You mentioned going through 4 years of college and not remembering it because you weren't mindful. That's it. Being in the moment. I remember I was about 5 years into my personal training career. I was smoking it. I was making a bunch of dough. I was working like crazy, and I was completely and utterly unhappy. I was totally burnt out. I was in an insomniac. I was literally sleeping like 1 to 3 hours a night. I was dead on the inside. I was so tired. I had so much, anxiety, all this stuff. My son was about 4 or 5, and I just was just riddled with anxiety. And I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I am literally not going to make it. And what I did was, fortunately, one of the biggest strokes of luck in my life was I picked up a book called The Power of Now by a man named Eckhart Tolle. And it's all about being in the moment and all about the power of literally just being here. All of your regret stuff is all in the past, and all the stuff you're anxious about is usually in the future. If you actually take a moment to just be right here, generally there's no massive problem that you're dealing with. Sometimes there is. Sometimes you're on a gurney and you're going somewhere, and guess what? Your heart's about to be open. Yeah. But 99.9% of the time in this moment, there is no problem. There's just what may appear to be a problem in the future on the horizon. That's what causes all our anxiety. Being in the moment is everything. And that book rang so true with me. And it's funny because I had read it like 15 years earlier and it didn't do a thing. I read it at about 5 years into my training career, and it meant everything. I was like, I am not going to forget this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a book club, and I'm going to have people come into my house, and we are going to read this book together until we have mastery. And that's what I did. I started bringing people over to my house. We would read The Power of Now, and we'd meditate. So it was huge because meditation was big in my early sobriety. It helped me get sober. So it really helped me re-dive into meditation. And I've been meditating really, really strongly ever since, and trying to be in the moment as much as possible, because there is power in being in the moment. The power of now is a very real thing. All of our fears almost inevitably are stuff that we think are about to happen, even if it's later today. Usually in this, like let's say for instance, oh my God, I have this podcast. I really want to be sharp. Oh my God, that's all stuff. That's
Yeah,
later.
you must have been inside my room when that was going on.
It's like, wait, in this moment, the only thing I have to do is help Rashid do this next do this next rep, or the person after that do this next body weight squat. In this moment, I'm in my genius because this is what I do. Just be here now. And I did it. And that was the kickoff of book club. And now I have this book club I've done for years and all these other just being in the moment is everything. So meditation is huge. And now I give the gift of meditation. I give the gift of meditation by doing guided meditations. I do guided meditations with my clients. It's one of my favorite things to do. They're all out of pocket, this and that. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 3 minutes right now. I'm going to count you down from 3 to 0, and I'm going to speak some wonderful words into you. I'm going to count you right back up to 3, and you're going to be feeling amazing. And that worked so well that someone's like, dude, why don't you do this as a subscription thing? That's my next thing. My next thing is I have this whole set of subscriptions of guided meditations because they work so well for me and work for others. Being in the moment is everything. And that's how I heal myself, Sherelle.
Yeah, I'm just real quick. I was watching one of your episodes where you were guiding someone through. I forgot what her name was, but you were guiding her, and next thing you
Yeah.
know, I was asleep, and I got up. I'm like, man, I was so I have never been so peaceful in my life. I was like, I was sitting there. I just remember like 3, 2, and then I'm like, I get up and I'm like, hello, what is going on? But it was so relaxing and it was scary because I was like, no, you made me fall asleep to the phone. Like, this is crazy. But
Right.
it was
I
really
gotta
powerful.
let people know. I've already recorded a whole bunch of them. The next set I record, I'm gonna remind people, don't do this while you're driving.
I know. Because good thing I was just sitting there. I was like, oh, he's good. And then I'm asleep. And I'm like, dang.
That's
I'm like,
obviously what you needed in the moment. We gave you exactly what you needed
yes.
in the moment
So
was some sleep.
thank you for sharing that on your social media because I was out of there. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's to kind of touch on what you just shared with us, Yancy, is one of my degrees is in social work. And
Mm.
in social work, the very first course that we took was problem solving with individuals. So helping individuals get through their problems. And one of the focuses was you have to meet them where they are and help them concentrate on the here and now. What's happening right here, where we are right now. Because if we can take care of this, we'll be better positioned to take care of what's going to happen in the future. And I have an inherent anger issue. I got it from, it stemmed down through the generations. And
Yep.
at the beginning of my relationship with my wife, I would see it creep out every so often. I always told myself when I was coming up, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. But I would see it coming out, and it would always just make me think about all these other things that could go wrong. And I never just stopped to think about, okay, let's take a deep breath, be right here, right now. And I've been able to, when I got my first degree in psychology, I started to really apply a lot of the practices to me. And now, in some of the most stressful situations, I just stay so calm. I stay so calm. It's sure.
Yeah.
He's not lying because I'll be like, Brian, we need to do this and this. And he'd be like, shaving. He's like, yeah, we'll get there. I'm just like, I can't right now. I just
Yeah.
can't. I can't right now.
You know.
I realized that I cause myself so much more stress when I'm worrying about things that are outside of my control. And there's typically, I forget how it goes, but there's certain things that you can't control that bring about worry, and there's certain things that you can control that bring about worry. If you actually, okay, let me step back and think about what can I control right now and start controlling what you can control and the things that you can't control, develop the coping mechanism to be able to say, you know what, I can't control it, so I'm not about to stress about it. And I'm thankful, and I give all glory to the highest that I've been able to internalize that and not allow things that stress the typical person out to really get to me. And what you do, man, like I'm going to have to go deeper into your content because it's something I feel that we should all be able to take from and pay it forward.
Thank you so much. And you nailed it right on the head when you talked about, you said something, I don't know if you know how deep what the comment was. You said how the anger had come through the generations. It's like it wasn't just born in you. It's like it was you know, we're Black individuals. We have had a lot on our plate over the course of many generations. So the fact that that will be in us some is a real thing. You know, you nailed it right on the head. But you also said something else so big. You know, you watch social media right now, and there's so much anguish and turmoil and division and this and that. And so much it is because every single person is focusing on all these things that they have zero control over. It's too big. It's too much. And yes, there is so much of us that should be focusing on those things. And I'll let other people take care of so much of that. What I'm doing is working on, like you said, what I can control. Working on what I can control and coming in here into the moment and helping my son or my next client or my next mentee or the next person on Instagram or Facebook who asks me for help. And if I can give them help right now, that's it. That's something that I can control and hope that that has a ripple effect into the future. Because, I mean, if I think about everything that's going on in the world right now, global warming, this, that, man, you'll literally melt down. The election and this and that, blah, blah, oh my God, what happened with the friggin', all these things. It's too much.
It's too much.
Boil it down to the moment, the present moment. Take a deep breath. And if you practice taking a deep breath enough, if you take one cleansing breath, it will make everything better once you get into the practice. So, one thing that happened when I was a kid, one of the reasons that I had so much failure is everything that seemed like a good idea, I actually acted on when I was a kid. Like everything. Hey, man, you're in love, you want to get married, let's go. Oh my God, you think that boss is an asshole? Just tell him. Boom. I mean, anything that was an idea literally came to fruition in my world. I was like a ping pong ball. So once, fortunately, my first AA sponsor where I actually got and stayed sober was a Buddhist. It was a beautiful thing because I grew up in a Southern Baptist household and it wasn't working. So for me to latch onto this Buddhist was a big deal because it showed me right away there's other ways to succeed in this world. Now I am a Christian and I have learned so much about connecting more with Christ than I ever did before growing up because I connect in a different way. But the first thing I did was meditate a bunch. And a bunch of meditation, what it did was it gave me a split second of thinking before I acted. When I was a kid, every single thing that I thought about became an action. Oh, you wanted to write this on that guy's book that he had to take home? Go ahead and do that. Like every single thought was an action. The meditation gave me just a split second to actually think and go, that might not be a good idea. You know, that split second, and that split second comes in a deep breath now. I've taught so many people these guided meditations and walking them through these things. I say when you send a signal of a deep breath through your body, it's the connection and it's a signal to your inner self that everything is okay. So for me, it takes literally like 5 seconds to get it together. Then what's the next step? And then I do that.
Wow. How do you I remember listening to some of your things and you're really big about connecting to your highest self. Um
Yes.
how because we've been in some very deep, some deep places, right? And we talk about a
Yeah.
lot of times in our culture, we're taught pray about it, leave it alone, you'll be all right, just keep on pushing, right? And so we just faking it till we make it. I think that's a bad, when they come up with that fake it till you make it, it can definitely be bad because there's a lot of people who've been faking for a very long time. It's like,
Right.
oh, you can stop faking now. We all don't know, like that's not the truth. But you know, I know the mentality going behind it was just to try to really, it was like to kind of connect yourself to start thinking that you're the person that you want to be. That's what it's really meant, right? But we took it
Yeah.
as fake it till you make it. Okay, I'm hurting, I got these issues, but I'm just gonna act like I don't, and I'm gonna go spend money that I don't have, and I'm gonna do
Right.
all these things to impress whoever. So when you talk about connecting to that highest self, right? How does
Yeah.
somebody connect to their highest self? And I've been in that place before, and sometimes, I may still feel like that. How do you connect to your highest self when you feel low, when you feel like you're
Yeah.
in your lowest self, right? So how do you get there? Because sometimes it's so high that you're like, I
Yeah.
can't, I don't have the strength to pray. I don't have the strength
Yeah.
to meditate. I don't have the strength to be present.
Hmm.
How do you get to that place to connect to that higher self?
Yeah, yeah. Well, a couple things. I think when you started the question, I was going to go in one place, but you finish it as when you're feeling low, what do you do? the first thing, and I know this from living through years of depression and actually clinical depression and suicidal depression, where I did not want to live on this planet anymore. I was just literally talking to my childhood best friend today. We only talk like a few times a year. And we were talking about one of these times that I was on the phone with him, and I'm like, hey, Kyron, man, I'm just sitting around, I'm just kind of cleaning my gun right now, man. Man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And he's like, what? I was literally just talking to him today. And he's like, man, I can't believe all this stuff has happened to you, because I remember when you used to sit around with your gun at the kitchen table and decide whether you wanted to do this or not. And when you're at that moment, I think a very important thing that people should realize, and they should literally put this up on your bathroom mirror, on your refrigerator, this too shall pass. When you're in pain, it feels like you're going to be there forever. When you're depressed and low, you feel like it is the rest of eternity. It's not. It's just this moment, and it will pass. Just like the good moments will pass too. Everything passes. The only thing permanent about life is how impermanent it is. So the first thing I think when you're feeling really low is to realize that this too shall pass. The second thing, and this comes with connecting with your highest self, and this is why I was so fortunate to fail so often as a youngster. As a Christian man, so much of it is about believing God is this gray-haired man in the sky who I need to pray up to please come bring down and give me something. When so many of these other realms of spiritual thought are, there's God out there, but that God also is within you. So much of connecting with your highest self is believing that there's God in there. If you didn't realize that God was within you, there's no real higher self to connect to. When you realize that God is not only this massive thing that created the worlds and the universes, but there's also he, she, it, the universe is also inside of you, then you realize that there's something to connect to. If you only think that you're an ant, why would you try to be something bigger? If you realize that the truth of you is that there are so many fields of spirituality that feel that God is within you, and there are some very specific Bible verses, if you look into them, where Jesus says, people will say, where's heaven? Is it here? Is it there? He goes, no, heaven is within you. That's a Bible verse that people don't want to pay attention to because it's very powerful. Oh my God, heaven
And
is
it
right.
holds you accountable.
Yeah. Oh, heaven is right here. Yeah. So once you realize that heaven's right there, then you start to think in a different way. Like, for instance, do you know that so many people whose parents are professional athletes are so much more likely to become a professional athlete? And it's not because of their body and how much more capable they are. There's people all over, up and down the streets, especially in the hood, who got all the athleticism of every other basketball player. But because that basketball player watched his dad or watched his mom be in the WNBA, they just feel like it's supposed to happen to them. Realizing that God is within you, you're going to realize, oh my God, I'm supposed to connect. I'm supposed to be this professional godlike figure because God is my dad. God is my mom. So of course I'm supposed to act that way. So part of it is realizing God is within you, because if you don't realize that, you can't connect with that higher self. So once you realize that God is within you, or at least be open to the idea that God is within you, then you can start to operate in an entirely different way. Come from a completely different place, because your dad's in the NBA, your mom is in the WNBA. Then you're
Yep.
supposed to be the champion.
That is so real. And I mean, we could go on and on with this because I can relate in so many ways, and the way I coach can relate in so many ways. There's the whole law of attraction that is put out there, and it's fixed up as the law of attraction based off of the secular world, just to sexify it, for make it look good. But it's no different than so much of what you read in the Bible, so much of what you get from a lot of these spiritual teachings. But the thing is, most people don't see that it's possible for them because you're a product of your environment. If your environment says that the highest you're going to be is working at this refinery over here, that's what you're going to see and believe, that that's made for me. That's the environment I came up in. But I tell people, change your environment. Go and move, go and live somewhere else. If you can't physically do it, get in front of some information like this. Talk to someone that's doing it. Get into the network of someone that's doing it. So I made sure to put myself around people like Dr. Sherelle Hobson. She has accomplished her doctorate. I'm on the process. Nobody in my immediate environment has done what she's done. So I have to connect with people like that. And then just tying in the whole peace part and the whole universe. A lot of times I tell people, find a clear night, go outside and just look up at the stars. Like, disconnect from anything around you. Look up at the stars and realize that you are in this massive universe, but that is part of you too. It's part of
Yep.
you too. And when you realize that, you can go from being that 12-year-old guy getting high to being that one that these celebrities come to allow you to give your greatness to them. And that's kind of what I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, like coming from where you came from. And I really go deep into this in so much of my teaching. Coming from where you came from, what your past said that your future probably was going to be, how have you made that transition mentally and emotionally
Yeah.
to be in the presence of some of these world-renowned celebrities?
You literally, you guys, the things that you guys are talking about is literally worth millions of dollars. If people would actually just take a second to, you guys are giving all of the goodies away. I'm telling you, you guys are speaking brilliance. So, yeah, guess what? You're a product of your environment. Then make a new environment. And if you can't get out of where you are because you're a 14-year-old who can't drive, read books. Read books. Read these personal development books of these giants. I remember being 20 years old and reading this first personal development book. It was called Psycho Cybernetics. And I remember basically reading it and going, I remember it was homework for my job. One of the things they wanted us to do was read these personal development books. I had never done it before in my life. And I had read this book and I went home and I read it and it said, you could be everything that you want to be in this life. And I remember going, what? Like, I remember like the whole concept was mind blowing. I came back to my job and was like, dude, this book says you can be anything you want to be in this life. And he was looking at me like, nobody ever, nobody ever told you that. I was like, no, man, nobody ever told me. Like, I never knew that. So basically, make the people around you these giants. Find these personal development books, these spiritual development, like Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. Like, listen to these giants, man. These can be the people, a lot of the people who I look up to don't even know who the hell I am. You know what I mean? And then you keep holding these people in your space, it'll raise your energy and raise your consciousness. And then the next thing you know, boom, you're working with this person who's this clothing line CEO. You're working with this person who's this successful actor or actress. You're working with this world-renowned Emmy-winning actor, whatever. You end up connecting with these people because you've raised your vibration, because now your environment isn't the hood anymore. Your environment is all these titans who you're reading with and spending time with every single day. They become your circle. Your circle. A lot of my people in my circle aren't even alive. People in my circle wrote books in the 30s and stuff. They're in my circle just like now. You know what I mean? Napoleon Hill and all these people, and Les Brown. Les Brown doesn't know who the hell I am. He doesn't know me from Adam. But that man is in my circle because you know what he is? He's one of the most successful teachers of personal development in the history of time. And he's a black man. And I can see him and go, I can be like him. All of these champions, these titans, make them in your world so that they become who you are. Just like when you're hanging out with 5 bad kids every single day, you're going to act just like them. Hang out with these champions. Hang out with these winners. Read Michelle Obama's book. Boom, Michelle Obama's in my circle. She doesn't even know it.
she don't
You know what I'm saying?
know, huh?
She don't even know. She don't even know she's in your circle. Create your board of directors, as I call it. It's one of my. If you look at yanceyberry.com, I have a coaching curriculum. It literally walks you through every single thing I do with a client. It's on yanceyberry.com. Right there on the coaching tab, build your board of directors. That's your circle of influence. They might not know it yet. Build them, or have, like, I want this type of person in my board of directors. I want these people. And we will create ways, action steps to connect with those people. Sometimes it's through their reading. Sometimes it's through emails. Connect with these people. Next thing you know, they're really in your circle. They're really
Yeah,
there.
I truly believe that. And one thing that we talk about praying and meditation. One thing that I had to do was learn how to pray. I know it talks about in the Bible how when you were a child you do things as a child, and when and so I started start being, I guess, mature, getting mature in my praying, and so I stopped praying for. I start asking God to prepare me for whatever you want me to do. Because I think a lot of times we see the big picture, but we never prepare for it. And so I always said,
Mm-hmm.
Lord, just use this time for me. This is a time for me of preparation, because I thought if I can get prepared, I can get through the process, and the
Yes.
process is going to put me in position, and the position is going to help me fulfill my purpose. And so I just always kept staying focused on that. And sometimes I'll have to go back and revisit. Remember you remember that you're preparing. Because when you're pouring those seeds, into people, and sometimes you wonder, where's my harvest? Right? I've poured into this person, I've poured into that person, I don't give this person this, and I don't done this, and you still feel like you're in the same place. If you could tell somebody, how do you stop yourself from feeling like I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing this, even though I may not see it, or even though we don't see the big picture. How do you continue to uh, prepare yourself and stay in that mindset of preparation, while you're going through that process, so that when you do see it, you manifest. You're able to
Mm-hmm.
be productive in it, right? Because a lot of times we pray for things that we're not ready for, and that's why we don't
Right.
get it.
Right.
So how what do you tell that person that is like, hey, man, I done planted about 1 million seeds, and I all I see is something about this small coming up. Like,
Where's mine?
when is it gonna be my time? What do you tell that person then?
Yeah. A couple of things. Number one, you're right. I was, man, I don't know if this is like divine intervention or what. Everything you're talking about, I was talking about earlier today with my friend. And I was mentioning to him, we don't even know what to pray for because we don't even know what's best for us. That's one of the reasons you get quiet and meditate. You get quiet and connect because then you know where to move. One of the best prayers is, God, let me know your will and give me the power to take action on what your will is. I don't know what the heck's best for me half the time. So many of the best things that have happened to me were things that I thought were awful in that moment, you know? But the thing is what do you say to the person who's like, I'm spreading all these seeds, where's mine, where's mine, where's mine? Gratitude. You have to get into gratitude. Practice gratitude every single day, specifically when bad stuff is coming down the pike. Gratitude and looking for opportunity is a great way to train your brain. If you can think of 10 things to be grateful for right now, you're going to feel a lot better than the person who's wondering, where's mine? If you're grateful that you can see, because guess what? Somebody else is blind. If you're grateful that you can walk, because guess what? Somebody else is in a wheelchair. If you find 10 things to be grateful for, you'll start to realize, oh shit, I'm actually rich right now. I can breathe. There's somebody on a respirator right now wishing to God that they could take a deep breath. If you can get into gratitude, you'll realize that so much of what you really, really need is already right here. And then from that place, you're already operating from a higher energy. Instead of operating from where's mine, you're operating from, oh my God, I'm rich. What else can I get next? Then you're on a whole level of energy. If that energetic stuff is true, which I believe, you're operating from a higher form of energy because you're in joy. Oh my God, I'm so grateful right now. So for me, one of the exercises I have people do every single time shit comes down the pike. Oh my God, I just got a flat tire on the way to work. F, right? What can I be grateful for right now? Give me 10 things that you can be grateful for right now that are a direct result of you having a flat tire. Well, I have a car. Boom, there's one. I was on the way to my job. I actually have a job. Boom, there's two. Give me seven more. So you can train your brain to operate in gratitude. You're in such a higher, happier place than the person who's operating in where's mine. And then there's a second step on top of that. You got even a double, even a better one. Okay, now let's think of 10 opportunities right now. 10 opportunities that are right now capable just because this happened. And just like that exercise, I don't know if you guys have seen the exercise. All right, look around the room and look at 10 things that are gray right now. Gray, 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 gray. Close your eyes. Okay, now tell me what's red. You won't be able to see it because you are only looking for the gray, right? If your brain is only looking for things to be grateful for and only looking for opportunities, that's all it's ever going to see. Practice that gratitude all the time, then your brain becomes like super strong at it. I'm always grateful because I'm always practicing it. Boom, then you're a master of gratitude. So then the next time somebody comes to you with some BS, all these things that they're upset about, okay, I get it. I hear you. I feel your pain. What can you be grateful for right now? Then you're onto it. Then you're the teacher.
Mhm.
Then you're teaching them. Look around the room, see everything that's gray. Gray, 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 gray. Close your eyes. Now what's red? You don't see the red because you were only looking for gray. Now get your brain into the place of gratitude. It's only looking for things to be grateful for. That's all it sees. It's seeing stuff that's like off white and trying to make it gray. Like your brain is like working on overdrive trying to look at things to be grateful for. It works just like that. So that's the answer to the person who's, where's mine? What do you have?
I feel like I owe some money. I feel like I need to send you like don't send me an invoice. I'll be like, I'll be writing, be like, hey, did you get an invoice from Yessie? Because it's expensive. He gave us a lot of help. He saved my life. I mean, it's
You
just
guys,
amazing. And I'm just grateful for you. I'm grateful for your story. The fact that as soon as I hit you up, I used to tell Brian, I'm like, look, we're gonna start this podcast in 2 weeks. When I first introduced it to him, I said, we're gonna start it in 2 weeks. And he was like, okay, cool. He blowing me off, he's shaving and doing all this stuff. You're not even paying attention to me, right? And so I said, and I'm going big. I'm hitting up Oprah. I'm trying to see, and he's like, okay,
there you go.
and I was just like, why not? Like these people have stories. These people have, this is a part of who they are. And I want them to share their story. So when we talk about gratitude, I just want you to know that you are, and I'm sure you hear it a lot, but I know that you are just, it's amazing. It's super
Thank
emotional
you.
for me
Thank you
because
so
I
much.
feel like, when we look at people and we see, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
While she gathers herself, like you are a
Mm.
confirmation that we're doing the right things in life.
Absolutely.
Because, like she mentioned, and I don't know how personal it was, but sometimes you give, you give, you give, you give, and you're not the one, you're not really complaining about where you're coming from, but it's like, man, it's been hard. Like, it's been so hard. But then you run
Yes.
across somebody like you who
Mm.
you're the testament of what we're going through. And it's just
Mm.
a blessing to be in front of you and just the confirmation of you saying, man, you guys are saying the same things that I say, the same conversation I was having. This is $1 million information. It's just confirmation and just you being so able and willing to jump in front of us and jump in front of our audience and give us your time. You're important. Not that we aren't.
Thank you.
But there's
Right.
Thank you.
grabbing at you. You didn't have to say
Yeah.
yes to us,
Yeah.
but it's
Hmm.
a testament to your character. And you are in my circle now. And
That's
Yeah.
it.
You've been in my circle, so
That's it. That's it. High flyers. Well, first of all, the honor and pleasure is all mine. I am very impressed with you. The only reason I said yes when I say no all the time is I could see you. I opened it up, I looked at you, and I was like, that's it. I want to say yes to this one right then and there. And it's not to say yes to everybody. I could connect. I could already feel you. You already put the intention out there. It was done. So now this only thing I ask is let's just do it again sometime in the future. When you guys are ready, we'll do it over again. You guys are winners, and literally the honor and pleasure is all mine. I'm happy to know you. I'm so glad to be connected with you. I can't wait to see where you go next. And let's think of a couple other great guests to get on here.
definitely.
absolutely. But thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just continue to pour into what you're doing. And we'll continue to support you and everything that you're doing. And I'm excited about This is
Yeah,
just the beginning for you. I mean, I'm
that's
sure you
it.
haven't even seen where you supposed to be. So I'm gonna be like, oh yeah.
Well,
But I'm
yeah.
gonna be right there. I'm gonna be right
Let,
behind
let,
you.
Thank you so much, Sherelle and Brian.
Thank
It's been
you.
my pleasure. And there's the stuff you don't know, and there's the stuff you know. Let me tell you guys, there's a lot of really good stuff coming. And I'm telling you, I've worked my ass off for a long time, so I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to you guys, and I'm so excited to see where you guys go. And let's do it again.
If you can let everybody know what you have coming up, where they
Yeah,
can find you, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff, you can do that before you leave.
yeah,
Once we log off, you're just going to hang out in the backstage. But before you go back there, please let us know where to find you. What do you have
yeah.
coming up? What do we need to be looking for?
Well, the easiest place to find me is on Instagram at YB Wellness. I tend to talk about everything that I'm doing there, but yanceyberry.com is my website. So www.yanceyberry.com is my website. It's already pretty cool right now. I love it, but it's getting revamped like major right now because there's so much stuff coming up. There's clothing, there's the guided meditation subscription series. There's a seminar I have coming up on October 1st. Check that out. It's going to be free. It's going to show you a lot of it. I'm going to have 3 very important coaching tools that everyone can use to improve their life right then and there. And there's so much more. I mean, it's just plenty. So yanceyberry.com or go to YB Wellness. Just follow me on IG. I tend to talk about all the things that I'm doing right then and there.
Well, I think you muted yourself, Sherelle.
Yep, you're
I'm
muted.
sorry.
No
But again,
problem.
we thank you. And if we're going to put you in
Yeah,
the backstage, we also put all your information on there for people to start following you and they can start, just
that's it.
adding to the millions of people that are already following you. It's going to be millions and millions and billions of people.
I'm
Real,
going from 14 to 15 today. I'm going from
hey,
14 followers to
we
15.
going up. We going up.
One step at a time, y'all.
Long as they not, when they start removing you, that's when we have a problem, huh? You're like, listen, I have 4,000, I got 399. So, you doing good. As long as we always, even if it's just once, we thank you for that.
Thank you so much, guys. And I look forward to talking to you again and keeping an eye on where you guys are going.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Appreciate it. All
Well,
right.
man, I mean, dang, Yancy Bay done broke me all the way down to the soul. I'm just very grateful for him. I mean, uh, here on the Black Podcast, it's all about, everything being real and making sure that we have a connection. And these guests are not just for you, but they're for us. They're people that inspire us, people that we look up to, that we know, hey, this person has a story and a message. And we want to make sure that what that person paid into poured into us, that we can pour it back into you. And so we're just grateful that the people that came on, please make sure you continue to follow Yancey. I mean, I can tell you what he does is the truth, and he's a very genuine guy. And so we're just very grateful to have him. And we have some upcoming shows. We have a show every Thursday at 4:00 p.m. Next week we have who, Brian? Who we have next week?
We got Brandon. We have an
We have Brandon B.
Yes, and this gentleman he resides in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Orlando from Brooklyn, New York. So he's got a
Mm-hmm.
nice little mixture, nice little taste of New York. Orlando is a nice little area, and he's going to bring us some wisdom and knowledge in the artistic space. And
Yeah.
before we leave, we didn't jump deeply into the Black podcast. We're boldly leveraging affluent connections for knowledge. We
Yeah.
just got crazy knowledge from this gentleman. And we have to be bold to reach out to them, people of his caliber, to be able to leverage his affluent knowledge. And when we say affluent, we don't necessarily mean he got buku money, which he probably does, but it's about the wisdom that the affluence that they can pour into us. And it's all about expanding your connections, guys. I'm grateful
And
for.
don't just watch this and then turn it off and live the same life that you did before you got here. Make sure you take the knowledge that he has. And I mean, it's on Facebook, it's live. So if you need to go back and look at it again, look at it again. But use what he had poured into you to change your life, your thinking. Be better than you were before you got on the podcast, before you started watching. So we just thank everyone for tuning in to the Black Podcast. You will find us every Thursday at 4 p.m. right here in the same place at the same time, doing the same thing from different people. But we just thank y'all for coming in. And B, we're going to go ahead and get off. Is there anything else we have?
That's it. It's 2 weeks. I can't wait to see you guys again. I can't wait to be here again with Dr. Sherelle Hobson. And go out and live your best life, guys. One day at a time. Be in the here and the now, and you will see how the future will thank you for it. All right. See you guys on the flip.